Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Short-Term Rentals with our rentalpreneur, Tijani.
Yes, what's going on, gang? It's good.
And we're super excited for today's topic because we're going to talk about how to get into short-term rentals, but with zero down. Is that even legal, man?
Not only is it legal, it's possible.
So one of the first options I saw was to become a property manager. In this case, that would be co-host.
Yes.
So how do you convince someone to manage their Airbnb property?
Yeah. So, there are three main strategies to get into this game. Is where you can own them, you can arbitrage them, or you can co-host them. And co-hosting is the only strategy that is known to be like zero out of pocket because it's a rev share model instead of just paying a straight rent. Usually the going rate for a co-host is about 25% to the manager and then 75% to the owner or the landlord. And you can get into co-hosting one or two ways. You can convince a landlord, talk to a landlord about how you can give them a better return on their investment by if they were willing to invest a certain amount of money to furnish the property. So for example, if you say, hey, if you give me $10,000, if you spend $10,000, furnish your house, get everything that you need, right? And you're asking for $1,500 in rent. What if I can get you an extra $500 in rent every month? That's $6,000 a year extra. That's a 60% return on your investment, right? So that's one way you can convince the landlord. So okay, well then they spend the $10,000. Now you're managing their unit, and then you're doing a rev share with them. And so that's one way to get into it. Or another way is somebody who's already hosting, right? Somebody who's already in the game hosting, and you're pretty much taking over the portfolio, taking over the management, because you have a lot of hosts that do this business, but they decide that, I want to be hands off. Like this building the team thing, it's a lot, whatever the case may be. I don't really want to do it. I just want it to be as passive as possible. So, which is good because now you're making more money than you would as a traditional rental, but it's hands off still, right? This way, the landlord is not making as much, the owner is not making as much as he would if he was managing it himself. This is why we tend to find that, especially in our business, because we co-host a couple deals just for a few close people that we know, but honestly, we just like to manage our own. But just now, we are literally looking to add like a co-hosting branch to our business to where we're looking to take on other people's properties because we have the infrastructure. And that's why I like to tell people, like, that's what's important. We call co-hosting also management. Co-hosting is also known as property management. But in reality, no matter if you're co-hosting, arbitraging, or you're running your own, you are property managing it, right? It's just called property management because you're property managing somebody else's. They don't really consider it property managing if it's your own, but you are property managing your own units. And so that's what I teach people how to do, how to create their own property management company. That's essentially what we're creating. That way you can run your own units, or you can run other people's units as well. So the means of execution is the same. So that's what, when it comes to co-hosting, we're experiencing all three. We're just starting this co-host leg, but we already co-host a few properties for some really close friends. And we found that the numbers tend to be as such. If you buy right, your best yield is gonna come when you own it. Because you're not doing a rev share, you're just simply paying the rent and you're keeping everything else. Arbitrage tends to be the better yield in the middle. That's the next level. That's the yield in the middle. Best is owning, next is arbitrage, and the third is co-hosting. But while the cash flow may be less than what you would make if you arbitrage it, the good thing is there's no money out of your pocket, right? But I want to share how I actually was able to kind of turn the co-hosting thing upside down.
Oh.
And I was able to do arbitrage with no money out of my pocket.
Oh my goodness.
Because when you arbitrage, usually you're just paying them a straight rent. You're picking up an empty property. You furnish it. You spend the money to furnish it. And there are multiple ways to raise capital, right? We've done it multiple ways. We've leveraged business credit. That's one way. Leverage business credit and set up your unit up and pay your business line of credit back. Another way is to leverage private money. What I did, this is how I was able to kind of literally scale my business with no money. I went to somebody and I said, hey, Marjorie, going to give me $10,000. I'm going to set up this Airbnb. Maybe I'll set up this house, or maybe you have two smaller ones that you're looking to set up. So, hey, I'll set it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you 30% of the income as they come in. So this is going to come directly to your bank account. As soon as we get reservation, I'll keep 70%. But for that 10,000, I'm going to give you 15% return on your money. So you're going to get 30% of my income until you pay back that 10,000 with the agreed interest. In a lot of cases, we found that in our business, it's taking anywhere between 3 to 6 months to pay them back. So say it takes 6 months, you've paid them back, now everything is yours, right? And that was no money out of your pocket. So, so I kind of turned the rev share kind of upside down, but to work in the arbitrage favor as well. And that's a whole play. That's a whole bar. I don't know if people. That's a whole bar, but yeah. So there are ways to get into this business with no money out of pocket. That's why my students are able to get to the bag quickly in this business because, we provide all kind of ways to really get going in this business.
That's right. And I mean, even if you're a college student and you're thinking about doing some co-hosting or arbitrage, there's always really good creative ways that you can find the financing that you need, especially when you don't have a lot of money to start investing into short term. Now, you also mentioned that you would look for people that are already being hosts and you would start managing those properties. So how do you go about finding those hosts?
Network. I mean, there's no other, what you shouldn't do, what you will not do, what you should not do, what I highly don't recommend, what you should absolutely not do is to go on Airbnb and start messaging hosts
Oh no.
about renting out, about managing it for them. And that people used to do that. I've gotten so many of those. Now I don't get them as much hardly ever anymore. But just a few years ago, it kind of in the first 2 years of my journey, maybe even a third year, I would get messages say, hey, I'm not trying to book your spot, but what do you think? Can I manage it for you? I'm like, are you freaking serious? You come on the platform and ask me that? So we would get a few of them. So people started doing it. Of course, it's frowned upon. Airbnb hates it. They will probably disable you, like your account, if they catch you doing that. So I don't recommend it at all. It's not the best way. You're not going to get any leads from there. No deals. That's not where hosts are on Airbnb to make money, to get bookings. They're not trying to get solicited on Airbnb. So it really, really, really leaves a bad taste in host mouth. So don't do that. The best way to do it is to network. And what happens is that once you get that first deal, do good business. Take care of them. Be about what you said. Have your systems dialed in and watch the additional opportunities that come your way. So my recommendation would be to network your butt off. Right? Go to networking events that are local to your market. Go to conferences. That's the best way is by meeting people because where else are you going to find hosts that are already hosting? They like going to networking events. They're trying to grow their business. They go to meetups and things like that. So you got to go where they're at and network and see if you can run a play with that way.
That's right. And I feel like that's also a really good way for them to, once you start working with one of them at least, they are going to have the word of mouth recommendations and they're going to keep recommending you to other awesome, amazing deals that you can start co-hosting as well.
Absolutely.
And in the case of someone, for example, that they already have a vacant space on their property, that's also another way that they could get into short-term rentals without having to spend extra money on them. So what are some of the tips that you would give someone that is looking to rent a section of their house?
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the best ways to get into this business. If you have that basement, you have that spare bedroom, maybe you're in a townhome, like we have a lot of townhomes, these 3-story townhomes in Houston. Maybe the masters, where a lot of them have the master on the second level or the third level, and then like a guest bedroom is downstairs. A lot of buildings are actually being built to be set up for short-term rentals. We're doing a lot of that in Houston as well. So it's like where it's a 3-story townhome and has 2 entrances. So where one of the other rooms has a separate entrance.
Oh wow, that's
right?
really
So
cool.
make it really conducive for short-term rentals. And so if you have an extra room, if you have that spare space, there are people that convert their garage into a short-term rental, right? Absolutely. So it's all about the experience, right? And somebody's going to book it. Like people are going to book it. If you set up a garage, you have a restroom in there, and people can just sleep. You know what I'm saying? Just somebody will pay $30 a night, $40 a night, $50. Like somebody will pay to stay there.
There's
Like,
always a public.
There's always a market for it. There's market at all levels. So if you have a spare room, start there. As a matter of fact, that should be the first place you start if you have something like that. Right, so if you have an ADU, a lot of folks have a secondary property on their property, a mother-in-law suite. Rent that property out. I had a lot of my students that did like a second unit on their property and ran the play that way. So, yeah, it's one of the best ways to go. And I recommend also if you do that, because it's likely you're gonna have like a spare room. If it's a spare room and the kitchen is common, maybe like you still have your kitchen and whatnot, just make it to where that room is like as isolated, as included as possible. Make it to where they shouldn't have to leave it. Put a fridge in there. Make sure you have a TV in there. Put a microwave in there, right? If you go above and beyond and put a coffee, like little coffee maker in there, right? You could do something like that even if the space allows it. So my recommendation would be try to get it to where they have everything they need in that room, right? They don't have to come out the room that much. If they come out, maybe they go to the kitchen and grab something or whatnot. Maybe if some people like make dinner for their guests and stuff like that, if they live with them and stuff like that. So just make it like really, really, really like conducive to that guest for sure.
That's right. And there's always a way that you can make it more of an independent spot for them
Yes.
that is totally separated from the rest of the house.
Absolutely.
Now, you also mentioned another aspect of getting into the short-term rental game, which is arbitrage. So when it comes to arbitrage, how do you negotiate with a landlord to start doing arbitrage on their property?
Yeah, so arbitrage is essentially what you're doing is you don't own these properties. You are renting them long term, and then you're reselling the use of it short term. And that's one thing I love about the short-term rental strategy, even especially with arbitrage, because I like to like if you're say you're at a dairy farm or something, and it's not like you build a product and you sell the product. In this business, you build a product and you continuously sell the use of a product. So if you have a dairy farm, you have cows, you're not selling the whole cow, you're just selling the milk that the cow produces, right? That's what we're doing in the short-term rental business. And when it comes to arbitrage, arbitrage is the most growing strategy in this game because of the barrier to entry is so low. Now, to get an arbitrage deal these days, nowhere near like it was when I got started. These days, Airbnb is a lot more popular. These days, now you have a lot more people that have left a bad taste in a lot of landlords and apartment complexes. Like they're not really trying to fool with Airbnb like that, like they were before. So you have to be really strategic in your approach. And by strategic, I mean you have to address what's important to the landlords. Like that's all they care about. As a landlord, trust me, coming from somebody who was a landlord, a long-term investor, we just want our property clean. We want our properties well maintained. We want our rent paid on time. That's really what we care about. How can you speak to the pain points of a landlord? That's what's going to get them intrigued enough. A lot of hosts just try to convince them. They don't position themselves as a person of value. They don't position themselves like, look, if you've been looking for the perfect tenant since you became an investor, here I am. Here I am. They don't position themselves as a value proposition. It's more so like they're just trying to get from them. You know what I'm saying? You should see yourself as a solution to their problems. That's going to change the game for you in getting the yeses, getting the landlords intrigued enough to work with you. Now, I'll tell you a few of the pain points that you want to address with a landlord. Rent payments. Address how they're going to begin their rent paid. Address how the property has to show for every single person. Address how the insurance is going to be handled. How the insurance handled. What we tell them is keep your landlord policy. We will add an additional short-term rental policy on top of that because guess what? You're still a landlord. Mm-hmm. We still have a lease agreement. You're still protected as a landlord. Now let's protect this business as it runs as a short-term rental, which will bring that insurance in. Matter of fact, not only do we have that specific insurance for this model, and it's not no renter's insurance policy. Oh. It's a rentals policy for short-term rentals, right? And for folks who are able to check out proper insurance, they're the number one insurance providers for short-term rentals, by the way. So when you have that insurance, let them know like, hey, we're also going to add you as an additional insurer as well. That way you know that you're protected. So handle the insurance. What about maintenance? How's maintenance? I'm telling you, coming from a landlord perspective, hate handling maintenance issues. So we incentivize the landlords, right? We sweeten the deal by saying like, look, okay, any maintenance issues that you have, up to $200 we'll handle it at our expense. Anything above $200 we'll still oversee it, and we'll invoice you. Maybe we take it out the rent, so we'll just invoice you for it. You want to pay us straight directly, but we'll still oversee it for you. And anything else that happens below $200, we'll take care of it. And we'll just let you know. We'll email you, let you know that everything's handled. So these are the pain points of a landlord. Your ability to speak to these is what's going to get you to yes.
Especially because you're truly targeting what a landlord would like to see. I mean, cannot think of any of my tenants being like, yeah, you know what? You had this tiny little hole in the wall. Let me repair it for you.
Yes.
Or let's see, this sink is not working. I'll
Yes.
fix it for you. I don't think any of
Yes.
my tenants would say that. But having someone that is already giving you not only their word, but also a contract saying that, yes, indeed, I'm actually going to follow through this, that's the perfect tenant right there.
Yes. 100%.
Now, there's also another program called the Airbnb Affiliate Program. Do you recommend that program? And what is it about?
They the Airbnb Ambassador Program, right? So the Airbnb Ambassador Program is to where you can actually, as a host, you can earn more money from referring other hosts. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I recommend it. You can definitely get set up with one. I believe. Honestly, I'm not sure how, because when I got invited to be one, they just sent it out to the hosts to get invited. I don't know if they sent out to all the hosts or just certain hosts or whatnot, but I got invited to be one. And so I'm not exactly sure if anybody can just request to be one or sign up to be one, or if they choose you to be one. So yeah, but it's a good program. It's great. A lot of people are making extra money on it. Some people literally like make it like a main hustle because you can make some pretty decent money. But apparently, when I spoke to another ambassador, apparently they kind of cut the commissions a little bit, and I'm not sure what that amount is. So yeah, just check to see if it's definitely still worth it.
It's the right one for
Yeah.
you. That's right. And any last tips for someone that is a super beginner and starting in the game of short-term rentals?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're gonna figure out what strategy you want to get into, because there's multiple ways to get into this game. I just literally told you how you could get into it with no money down, whether you co-hosting it or you went to arbitraging it. To be honest with you, you can really still get into it with no money down. The goal, though, I don't care how you start in this business. Your goal should be ownership. Ownership should be the goal, because that's where the wealth is. So get into the game. If you can't own right now, go ahead and get in and start cash flowing and move from phase one to phase two. That phase two should be ownership. You should be buying assets once you generate that next thing of cash flow every single month. So my advice would be to take action, 100%.
No better time than today?
No better time than now.
That's right.
It's now o'clock.
Thank you so much again, TJ. And thank you to our audience. We're super excited to keep learning more about short-term rentals here with TJ. So now you have it. You can definitely get started into the game of short-term rentals. It doesn't matter if you're a super beginner or super advanced in other investment strategies, you can still get it and you can still make a whole bunch of profits on short-term rentals. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.